these two feathers from the chicken coop the other day, and it got me thinking about feathers. These two probably came from the same hen, but they look quite different. This one looks like what you might imagine when you think of a feather, but this other one seems to have two distinct areas. The outer area looks like a typical feather, but at the base it looks almost like fluffy down, with filaments that just fluff out independently of each other. On the other hand, this feather has only a tiny bit of fluff right near where it grew out of the skin. Although the whole feather is made of these same filaments, over most of the feather they are locked together into one smooth surface on each side of the central shaft. They do that because of many tiny barbs and barbules that interlock a bit like the loops of Velcro. Here's a close-up of a feather at very high magnification. We can see the way the filaments interlock if we pull them apart. The chicken can zip them back together again when she preens her feathers. Officially, the fluffy, downy feather structure is called plumaceous, and the smooth, interlocked feather structure is called pennaceous. Biologists classify a chicken's feathers into various types depending on their structure, location, and function. This feather is called a contour feather. The contour feathers are what you see covering most of a chicken's body. In fact, usually what we see is just the smooth or pennaceous outer end of each contour feather. These feathers give her a smooth outer coat that helps keep her clean and sheds water in light rain. Hidden underneath her contour feathers are some semi-plume and plumaceous feathers. These are even more fluffy than the contour feathers, with maybe only a small area of smooth pennaceous structure at the tip of the semi-plumes and none at all on the plumules. The central shaft is short and fine. These downy feathers can be fluffed up to trap little pockets of air next to her warm body. This layer of insulation will keep a chicken warm in very low temperatures as long as she is dry and not exposed to wind. Feathers don't grow evenly all over the chicken's body. They grow in defined areas called teruli or feather tracts. Feather cover is very sparse in the other areas, particularly under her wings. In hot weather, she can hold her wings away from her body and let the air circulate to the bare areas underneath. This first feather that I found is a tail feather. Almost the entire feather is pennaceous, and notice how the shaft is hollow. It didn't start out that way. When a feather grows, it starts as a little bump and a feather follicle, and then the feather grows as a tube with an outer protective waxy sheath. Inside the shaft of the growing feather is a blood supply with an artery that carries blood to nourish the feather as it grows. Then the feather unfurls as the waxy sheath peels off, and the blood vessels shrink away and disappear, and the shaft becomes hollow. Once the blood vessels have gone from inside the shaft of the mature feather, you can safely cut it without any pain or bleeding, just like we can cut our hair and nails. But if a feather is cut or damaged while it's still growing and still has that blood supply, it will bleed a lot. This hollow shaft is also why feathers were traditionally used to write with. Remember that word pennaceous that describes a feather like this? It comes from the Latin word penna, which means feather, and it's also where we get the word pen. So this is indeed a pennaceous feather. A wing feather is very similar to a tail feather. It's almost entirely smooth, pennaceous, but unlike a tail feather, a wing feather is not symmetrical. The shorter side would be the leading edge in flight. Because it's shorter, it's less flexible and stops the feather twisting under pressure of the air rushing past during flight. Oh, and yes, chickens can fly, although some breeds have more aerodynamic wingspan to weight ratio than others. Apart from aerodynamics, the main functions of feathers are to help a chicken keep warm, clean and dry, and they serve two other purposes too: camouflage and sexual attraction. And they do those two things using the colours and patterns of the feathers. Feathers come in all kinds of different colours and patterns. Lots of the colours and patterns we see on our chicken breeds today have come about because we humans like the look of them, and so we bred chickens to look like how we wanted them to look. If you're interested in the genetic background of colour and pattern in chickens, do check out my genetics playlist. Just a few of the breeds of chicken that we have today look similar to the original wild jungle fowl. The colour pattern may be called partridge or gold duckwing. The hen has a subtle but intricate pattern that we can easily tell would hide her well in any forested or jungle background. That's excellent camouflage. If that hen needs to sit still on her eggs in the forest floor, she's going to be quite hard for a predator to spot. But the rooster of the same breed looks completely different. He's not hiding anything. The rooster doesn't need to sit still and hide because he's not the one sitting on the eggs. He's shouting out loud, "Look at me!" His main reason for wearing such colourful feathers is to attract the attention of a hen, or even better, several hens. We couldn't talk about chicken feathers without mentioning silkies. Silky chickens have very unusual feathers. They completely lack the interlocking barbs, and so the whole feather is just fluffy. Those fluffy, almost fur-like feathers can't form that smooth outer coat, so silky chickens do poorly in cold or damp conditions. And of course, without any pennaceous feathers, silkies definitely cannot fly. The loss of interlocking feather barbs occurs because silky chickens are homozygous for a recessive gene, which means that both parents of a silky chicken must be silkies. If you cross a silky with any other chicken, the offspring will have normal chicken feathers. The other very odd feather structure that is relatively common is the frizzle. The frizzle feather has a deformity of the central shaft, so that instead of lying flat against her body, the feathers curl up and outwards. Frizzle feathers don't function very well either, not for keeping the chicken warm or dry, nor for flying. Unlike the silky genes, the frizzle feather is caused by a dominant gene. So if the chicken has just one copy of the frizzle gene, her feather will be frizzled. A chick that inherits the frizzle gene from both parents has extremely deformed feathers that break off, so it's not a good idea to breed a frizzle hen with a frizzle rooster. So I bet you didn't know there was so much to know about feathers. And next time you see your chicken's preening, you'll know why it's so important to her to keep those feathers in tip-top condition, to keep her warm and dry, as well as beautiful. I hope you enjoy learning about chickens as much as I do. Bye for now. See you next time.